Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I've got a card for you inspired by something in the annual catalogue. I'm just going to find it so I can show you. So this is a watercolour technique that they've done, funnily enough, on the page marked watercolour techniques. Okay, so they've used a spritzer. So basically on this page we've got some paint with water, which is painting with an aqua painter, pencil me in, which is using watercolour, spritz bliss, which is this, and pretty in pastels. So I am going to do this one today. So they've used the painted lavender stamp to do this. I don't actually have that set, but I really love the Agapantha's head in the Wildflower Designs. That appeared like magic there, didn't it? So I've had to, obviously I've made this card up so you can see what we're going to make, but I have had to already do the piece that we're going to use on the card that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. Obviously it's on watercolour paper. There is water involved. It needs to dry. So you can dry it with a heat tool. And I went to do that and then realised that I'd lent my heat tool to my daughter about 3 weeks ago for Father's Day. So she's still got it, unfortunately. So she's going to drop it back to me before my class. But for today, for the video, that'll have to be a here's one I made earlier in true Blue Peter style. If you're not in the UK, and you're probably going, what on earth is Blue Peter? So it was a children's show. And they always used to have a craft on it, and it was in my day anyway, a lovely lady called Valerie who did the craft mainly, and she always said, and here's one I made earlier. So that's where that reference comes from. So right, let's get going on this card. So firstly, one of the most important things is cover your desk. So I've got a piece of kitchen towel here. This is the card that I made, so I'm going to put that out of the way because it is dry and we don't want to get it wet anymore. So we're going to do the making of the front panel first. And as I said, I have got one that I've already done, which is pretty much dry. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got two colours here. I've got Petunia Pop and I've got Gorgeous Grape. Now you do need quite a lot of ink on your watercolour paper. So this is Fluid 100, I think it's called, watercolour paper. Don't use it very often, which is another reason for using it today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some Gorgeous Grape first. I'm just going to turn the cardstock sideways. Now what I did was I started low and got higher as I went across the card, and then sort of came back down lower again, and then filled in the gaps at the bottom. This is going to look quite messy. So obviously if I was stamping over something, I would make a mask so that it looked like it was behind, but we don't really need that for this technique because it's going to be sort of all merged into one when we spray it. So I'm just going to give that a clean, obviously, because I'm now going to put that on my Petunia Pop, which I don't want to cover in Gorgeous Grape. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my Petunia Pop ink pad, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, but we want to try and fill most of this with colour. Now my Petunia Pop ink pad is juicier than my Gorgeous Grape one because it's obviously a lot newer, because it's a new ink colour. So, oh, I think we need another Gorgeous Grape in there, so we're going to do a Petunia Pop in there, I think. I'll have another one up there. Now what will happen is when I spritz this, the ink will run, and we'll be able to sort of tip it around a bit. You'll see in a minute. Yeah, I think that'll do for that. So important, close your ink pads, because if you've got water being spritzed about, you don't want to spray water onto those ink pads. It does not do the felt any good. Never ever get water on the actual, it's not felt anymore, sort of sponge that the ink is on, because they can degrade. And I've actually had that happen to me with one it did get quite wet, and I didn't realise, and I put it away, and when I got it out to use it the next time, it had sort of crumbled almost. So it doesn't like getting wet, basically, other than with re-inker. Okay, so what I've got here is just one of our spritzers. These come in a pack. It's just got water in, and I will talk to you about some other things you can do in a minute. So I'm just going to lightly, to start with, spritz where I've stamped. Now, you can either leave it like that, where you can still see the shape of the flower, or if you go a bit heavier, you can see that most of the shapes of the flowers have been obliterated on that one, but that's fine because we are going to stamp over the top of it. So what I don't want is these white patches here. So you can see that the colour, because you've got mobile water on there, the colour, you can get it, if you tip it, you can get it to sort of more or less fill in those blanks. And then what you can do with the little bit of ink that's left on your stamp, sorry, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. You can just go back in with the ink that's left on your stamp, and then just give it a little spritz again, and that will fill those gaps. There we go. And then you can always tip it so it runs off the card. So that's our background. I'm going to put the lid back on my spritzer now. So that one is going to have to be set aside to dry. So in true Valerie style, here's one I made earlier. So you can see this one's dry. I had some ink on my desk, look, and that's literally soaked up the ink. So this one's dry. It will warp the watercolour paper as it dries. When it gets nearly dry, you can always put a large block over the top of it to flatten it out. But personally, I don't do that. I find that it will, you know, allow you to bend it back into shape. Now, I'm just going to slide this one back in here. So you can see we've got like a pool along the top and bottom. Now, if you want that concentrated piece of colour there, which I do, then leave it be. And it will dry just stronger around those edges. I'm just trying to get that white bit there. And that will dry stronger around those edges. If you didn't want that concentrated piece of colour, you can very gently dab at it with another piece of kitchen roll. If I was to go in here with another piece of kitchen roll straight away, it will lift most of the colour off. So if you've got a bit too much colour somewhere that you're not happy with, then you can gently dab it off. Okay, so this is one we've done earlier, and you can just see the shape of the agapanthus head. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come back in with my stamp. Now, because my Petunia Pop ink pad was juicier because it's newer, most of this is pink rather than purple, which is fine. That works fine. But what I'm going to do is bring back in my gorgeous grape now, and I am going to add some detail along that bottom section. So first of all, I'm going to do one in the middle, a little bit higher up. Let me just get that piece of dry kitchen roll out of the bottom there, just so I don't get ink everywhere. You can see where it's dried on the kitchen roll. So I'm just going to ink this up, and I'm going to stamp a pattern in the gorgeous grape along the bottom like that. And I'm just going to then go a little bit, am I not? No, I'm not actually. No. Just going to put a little bit of a head in there. Right, okay, so I've just stamped over the background that we've done, so I can get rid of that. Now, it's up to you how much stamping you want to do over it. You could make a mask by stamping on a post-it note and then cutting it out, and you could have a lot more on there. But I want this to be more about the ink technique. So I'm going to close my ink pad up so I don't get that in a mess, and move that out of our way. Okay, so this piece is now finished. So I'm just going to move that piece of kitchen paper out of the way, and I'm going to bring in our base, if I can remember what I've done with it. Here it is. Okay, so this is a piece of Petunia Pop cardstock, and it is half of an A4 sheet lengthways. If you're in the States or anywhere else that uses letterhead, you can just do half of your sheet, and it's scored in half. So that gives us a standard C6 card, which you can either have tenfold, but obviously we've done this landscape, so we're going to have the I was going to say hinge, fold to the left. Okay, so now I did toy with the idea of cutting this down and having another colour underneath, but I actually quite like it for its simplicity like that. So what I've got is a piece of basic white, and this is cut at 14.3 by 10, and this is going to go inside our card, so we're going to do that first. So what I did was I just took, in my other card, I just took this little cow parsley stamp and the Petunia Pop. Sorry if I've just made you jiggle. Okay, well, got halfway through recording this video and then my phone decided to run out of battery, so I'm currently plugged in, but the charger on my phone is not great, so I'm hoping it's still charging and we'll get to the end of this video. So here's our inside part, so we're going to stick that in first, and I'm just going to use some Tombow for that to stick that middle in. Oops, a daisy. Now, for those of you that watch my videos regularly, you'll know that I love Tombow because it's got a little bit of wiggle room, which makes it easier to line it up, because if it's not straight, you can amend it. Now, I am actually going to veer off today because this is watercolour paper. It's quite heavy. It's also been bowed. Now, while I have straightened it out, watercolour paper is textured. So Tombow would stick it, but today we're going a bit heavy duty because I'm going to put a piece of ribbon across there. Now, this is the sparkly organza ribbon. I've made it my mission this year to use up things. I love gems, I love ribbon, I love papers. Unfortunately, I don't love using them so much, and I end up with a stock of retired things. I don't think this ribbon is still available. I think this was out of a Christmas catalogue, but I am just going to have a quick look. You never know your luck. I'm still getting my head around this catalogue, so I'm just looking to see if I can... here we go, ribbon. So, that one is very similar. So if you haven't got any of this to use up like I have, and you wanted to make this card, number 14 is silver and white 1/2 inch sheer ribbon. So that would do the same job. Okay, I think that's all of the ribbons on that page now. Oops. Yeah, that's gems on there. So that sheer ribbon would do the same thing. As I said, I'm just trying to use up some of the stash of bits I've got. Now, Tombow does not work well for ribbon, so I'm using some Stampin' Seal, which I'm just going to run around all 4 sides of my card. Seal Plus is our most sticky, but this is fairly sticky. Oh, goodness me, I've got a loop sticking out. So it's run out. Okay, but I think we've just about got enough. So what I'm going to do is I am going to stick my ribbon to one side on the back and then flip it over. And on the first card, I put it on the bottom. On this one, we're going to go for the top, I think. So we'll pretend that I meant that to happen. Right, we've run out of seal there. Have I got another one? Yeah, this is Seal Plus, I think. Oh, goodness me, what is going on with all my things? That one's pulled out as well. Okay. Has that got anything in it? No, that one's out as well. We're not doing very well here, are we? We're going to have a little bit of Tombow down that side, I think. the one place where I needed some sticky because I need the ribbon to go. And there's no sticky. Oh dear. Where's my tear and tape? I'll just lob a little bit of that on the back. I've got sticky everywhere else apart from where I want it to be. So you'll see that, you know, even demonstrators like me that have been doing this for 10 plus years still have issues happen. Okay, there's a little bit of tear and tape. So if you haven't got seal, you can use tear and tape to stick your ribbon on. It's just that ribbon does really not like Tombow. Okay, and we're going to stick that. Oh, goodness me, Julia, that's really not level, is it? That better? Nope, still not level. So do as I say, not as I do. So stick it on one side, even it up on the front, and then tuck it round the back. Trying to make sure that it's not too tight. Okay, and then what we're going to do is stick this to the front of our card. So I'm going to open that card out because we can't move this. Obviously the seal, once I press it down, is going to stick really hard. Okay, so that's that. And then what I've done, out of the same ribbon, I've just tied a small bow. Now, I'm not going to tie you a bow on camera. You all know how to tie a bow. I use the bunny ears method. And then we're just going to use a glue dot. If you don't know what the bunny ears method is and you really, really want to know, send me a message and I'll explain it. Okay, so we're just going to get a glue dot on the back of that bow, and that bow is going to go up there like that. Okay, and glue dots really are the best thing for sticking bows on. I find they stick really well. Okay, so that's almost finished. And then the last thing I'm going to do is bring in my Wink of Stella. And just on this agapanthus head in the middle, you just need to be a little bit careful because Wink of Stella contains alcohol. And alcohol will move our water-based inks around. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of sparkle on that one there. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe. Hopefully you can catch a little glimmer of sparkle on there. It's difficult to make it show on the camera. Okay, and that's our finished card. So I said I was going to tell you some other techniques. So this one, I actually did not use water on that. I used, in a spritzer, a mix of rubbing alcohol and our shimmer paint, which is this little Frost White all-purpose ink, which again I don't think is a current thing. I'm hoping it might come, this bottle's nearly empty, I'm hoping it might come back at Christmas. It did one year, so fingers crossed it might come back this year. Okay, so the other thing you can do is put a little bit of very, very fine glitter in with some rubbing alcohol if you've got like super fine glitter. And that just gives it a little bit of a shimmer. So this one I did, it had that paint in, that shimmer paint in, and as I said, was rubbing alcohol. But this one is water, and the one that we've just done is water. Okay, so there's the two cards. Those of you that watch my videos will know that I don't always put a sentiment in because I never know what I want to say until I send the card. So I'm not going to put sentiment in there. I've just added that little flower stamp. Okay, so those are our two cards. It is a messy technique, but it is really fun. You have to be a little bit patient to allow it to dry, but you can see no two cards will come out the same. I mean, if I drag these over a little bit, you can see this one is completely different to this one, is completely different to that one. So do give it a try. It's a really good technique. As I said, it is a bit messy, so protect your worktop and don't maybe wear a white top or your best trousers when you're doing it. Okay, that's it from me for today. And I'll be back soon with some more cards for you. Thanks for watching and putting up with my rambling, and I'll see you all soon. Happy stamping. Bye for now.